People ask whether they're entitled to a share of their spouse's business. And to understand the answer to that, you have to understand the general concept in Pennsylvania and in most states now that assets that come into the marriage while the parties are together belong to both of them, and it doesn't matter whose name that property is in. So if your wife owns her own business that she started during the marriage, that is what's known as marital property, and the value of that business is going to be factored into the divorce settlement. A more complicated question would be, my husband owned the business before we got married, but has continued to work on that business, and the business has grown over the course of the marriage. That's a more complicated question because when we value that business, we have to separate what is the value that accrued over the marriage versus what the business was worth when you first got married. And there are ways of doing that. It's based on information that you provide and that your spouse provides, things like tax returns, financial statements, loan applications. If we look at those, we can generally figure out what a business was worth when you got married. Then we figure out what the business is worth at the time that you're going through the divorce, and that difference, that's the marital component of the business, and that will get factored into the settlement. Now, if there are other assets, for example, your husband owned a business, it's worth $200,000, and there's a $200,000 house, the courts are generally going to say, it's your husband's business, let's let him keep the business, but because he's getting $200,000, you are going to get something worth not necessarily $200,000, the percentages can change a little bit, but you will get something else to make up for the fact that your husband is keeping his business. And of course, I'm using husband and wife in one sense here. It would work exactly the same way if it was the wife that owned the business.